Hey, how you guys doing? Hope you guys are doing good. Happy Tuesday. My name is Charles, administrator with Charlotte Health Services. We've been hopping on weekly and doing Hospice 101 live education talks, and we're glad that you've joined us today. If you're viewing this in the comfort of your own home or in the middle of work, welcome. What we've been doing over the last couple months, actually now, is educating families on hospice. The word hospice is and can be very frightening. And so our heart behind this is to make it digestible and easy to understand by telling you a story, specifically a patient that we've taken care of, and retelling it and bringing you into their lives, and us doing a Hospice 101 education talk so that you can understand what hospice is. So we're excited that you're here. We're going to just jump right into it. So the biggest thing, the reason why we started this a lot is we've been on for about 23 years doing home health, hospice, and veteran care. And what we've seen, and what not just we've seen, but several agencies have seen over the years, is that not a lot of people understand what hospice is. And these are some good stats, some chat GPT stats, but also good stats. 1.8 million people, roughly around 2 million, receive hospice care every year, that's a lot of people. But the thing is that only 50% of them actually utilize the full benefit of hospice. And right now, on average, about 18 to 21 days, when the benefit is 6 months or more, if your loved one continues to qualify after research greater than 6 months as well. So there's just a lot of families not truly utilizing the benefit. And what we hear a lot is at the end or even after, man, I wish I would have known about hospice sooner, or I wish we would have utilized it more because it was such a big help. And that's why we're doing these weekly lives on Tuesdays, to really make it available for anyone to just hop on and understand what hospice is. So what we're going to do is we're going to retell a story, and we're going to talk about Miss Margaret. So our Hospice 101s are about stories, and we're retelling them. So Miss Margaret, she goes by Peggy, Peggy Ellis. We're going to break down her story, and she was an amazing cook. And she loved to cook, and everyone knew Peggy for her chicken pot pies. I like chicken pot pies. I don't know about you, but I grew up eating Boston Market, so in Plano, Texas, and I would go and get their chicken, their roasted chicken, and their pot pies and their cornbread. And so Miss Peggy could throw down and really get a really good chicken pot pie down. And so we're going to talk about her story specifically. She was a cook, and she loved to cook and take classes, but then also as she got older, she started working at a cafe, and everyone knew her for her meals. As she got older, around 86, she started hosting dinners for her kids and her grandchildren, and they would all come and enjoy some good food. And she lived alone, though, because her husband passed 6 years earlier during the COVID pandemic, and we all were a part of that. And so the biggest thing about her was that she just loved to live by herself and cook for her kids and her grandkids, and everyone come over, and that's her joy, that's her passion. But over the past couple years, things began to change, specifically with her health. And so Margaret's daughter, Karen, noticed that she wasn't finishing her meals, which is really odd for Peggy, because if everyone knows Peggy, she loves to eat and she loves to savor it and to enjoy it, because that's her passion. But she seemed really tired, like a lot. And then not only that, but the normal things that she used to do, she just didn't do anymore. And then also she began to lose weight, which is not normal for Miss Peggy. And she was spending more time in the recliner at home, not knowing that her husband's not there. She would just be at home and be in the recliner all the time. And then also she was short of breath, which was just really odd. So at her next doctor's appointment, Karen went, and she had lost 20 pounds in 6 months, and which is just like not like Miss Peggy at all. And so Karen was pushing for answers, like, okay, what's going on, Mom? Like, what do we need to do? Let's get some blood work, let's get some tests, let's get some CT scans. And then they came back, and they kind of came back a little bit normal for her age. But finally, the doctor, her PCP, explained that maybe your mom was just kind of giving up, like failure to thrive. And And there's not really a specific reason as to why, but she's just declining. Her body's declining. She doesn't have an appetite. She's getting weak. She's fatigued. Her motivation, loss of independence. And Karen's like, well, how do we fix this? We just need to get mom doing activities. We need to get her doing things. What's going on? Like, how do we fix mom? Because, you know, I want mom to be here for my kids so they can see her get married. And so Karen's thinking about all these things, and mom is just like, no, like I don't want to do this. And so now the hardest part about this is that, when the doctor also was talking to not just Karen, but her mom is like, have you considered hospice? And Karen is like, what? No, like mom doesn't have cancer, or like why hospice? And the doctor did a great thing and just kind of explained a little bit about what hospice is, and it is there to help. And so when she was when someone is experiencing this decline, the doctor was telling them that, especially with activities of daily living, support, comfort, and all those things, there is a way for you to get help, and her to get some comfort and some help as well. So then Karen was like, that's interesting. Like, I would have never thought about hospice at all. And so this is where we pick up. And so if you're joining us right now, just hopping on right now, welcome. My name is Charles. We've been doing these Hospice 101s for the last couple months. We've been doing it for several years as an agency, but the goal is that we would tell a story, paint a story, and then also walk the family through a Hospice 101 live here, so you can get to understand what is hospice and just understand it in a very easy way so that you can know the benefit of hospice if your loved one qualifies. So this is where we pick up. And so now Karen is trying to understand what hospice is and what does that mean for her, and what does it mean for her mom if she does hospice. So here are a few things that's just good to know: what hospice focuses on, what happens, and where does hospice happen, and when it's appropriate. And so what hospice focuses on is managing pain and symptoms, specifically when it comes to a diagnosis for your loved one, emotional and spiritual support, and also getting help in the home clinically, and then honoring your loved one's wishes. So where does hospice happen? It can happen anywhere. Specifically, most of the time it's in the patient's home, or an assisted living facility, or a senior living facility, or a group home, or an inpatient unit as well. Hospice is appropriate when the doctor says, oh, I think that someone may have 6 months or less to live. What the doctor does, a PCP, cardiologist, neurologist, they'll just write the order. And the order just says evaluate and treat. And then they'll send that information to the hospice to look at all the clinicals to see if your loved one qualifies. And that's kind of the steps that happens. So now, in this situation, Karen, she Googled, she researched, and she found a hospice and said, all right, cool. Let me learn more about this hospice. And so one of the things that we like to do, and the best hospices, what they do is they do what they call a Hospice 101, because hospice is very unfamiliar unless you've been in it, unless you've been through it with a loved one, or you actually are a provider and do hospice. And so what we like to do is just break down some key parts of hospice and how it is a benefit to families. So when you think about hospice, think about three things: the care team, supplies, DME, and medications. Now, there's a lot that comes with hospice, but sometimes you just need to understand the basics to understand it, and then that will allow you to understand the full benefit of the care that you can receive for your loved one. So let's break down the care team. So the care team is a team that is now available for your loved one and for you, and that is comprised of a chaplain or social worker, a hospice nurse, who is basically the quarterback, the one who really focuses on care planning, everything that's going on with your loved one, a hospice aide who helps with bathing. Now, this bathing is not daily, right? It's not like someone's going to be there throughout the day. It's more of intermittent, specific with hygiene and making sure that the comfort and quality is assured. And then you have a hospice medical director. That doctor oversees the hospice to make sure, from a terminal diagnosis standpoint, from a medication standpoint, these are the things that are followed. So now that doctor oversees that care. And so that's like the first part, which is the three, which is the care team. Second is medications. So medications are now covered and not covered by hospice. So what happens is the nurse will go out and review all the current medications and cover them under the hospice diagnosis, and then really reconcile, because a lot of times what you see and what we see is that there's so many different medications. The cardiologist is sending medications, the PCP is sending medications, the neurologist is sending medications. And a lot of times that polypharmia occurs. So under hospice, now you have the hospice who oversees all those medications. And sometimes they may discharge certain medications, but it's really the coordination between the nurse, the doctor, and Karen or the family to see which medications would be better so that she can maintain her comfort and quality of life. And a lot of times those medications will conflict. On the other side too, depending on her diagnosis, specifically for her, it's a general decline, right? Those medications will be given tailored to how she's doing and how she's feeling, with the guidance of the nurse and the guidance of the medical director. Third prong or third ring or core of hospice is DME and supplies. Now, all these things that we're saying, we'll talk about paying and payer and insurance. These are all covered, but DME specifically and supplies. So now the hospice contracts with DME companies and supply companies, and their job is to drop ship and to set them up in the home. So now let's say Karen is in a recliner and she's continuing to get more weak. The hospice can order a hospital bed if needed. The hospital bed is now, there's no cost. The hospital bed is dropped to the home and is there for the life of the time that your Karen's mom is on hospice. Supplies, wipes, chucks, oxygen, depends, all those things are tailored. And usually what the hospice does, the best hospices do, is that that nurse will go out and pick and choose and tailor those equipments and those supplies to what Karen and Miss Peggy needs for their care. So that's just kind of a little bit quick summary of those three areas. So now where does Karen start? Now that she has an understanding of what hospice is and what it isn't from a very basic standpoint. So the first step was recognize it may be time, which happened with Karen and the doctor and Peggy as they're all sitting together. The doctor wrote the order. So now the order will be sent out and specifically to the hospice that Karen chooses. After she's done the 101, she'll pick and choose, okay, I want to go with this hospice. And then the admission process will then begin. And so that's the part where the nurse will go out and do the first admission and review things. And so we talked about before qualifications. So when you're looking at these little emojis, I guess, you have the heart, lungs, brain, the ribbons for cancer, the old man with the cane is debility or weakness, and blood is mostly for anything with the blood, right? Cancers and other hematology and different things that have to do with blood. So all these qualifications as a whole, all these qualifications have to be met specifically for you to actually be on hospice. And so each diagnosis has specific metrics that have to be met. And so in this situation with Peggy, the nurse would go out, get all the clinical information from the doctor, look at things specifically that have to do with debility. There's what they call protein calorie malnutrition, is not getting enough. There's a lot of weight loss, ADLs, not able to do things that she used to do by herself, cooking, cleaning, or even bathing. All these things can kind of paint the picture of the need for the qualification for hospice. And then if Peggy qualifies, hospice can begin. That's the clinical side. Now you have the payer side, which is very important. A lot of families are like, okay, wait, how much does all this cost? So under Medicare Part A, if your loved one has Medicare, Part A covers hospice 100%. So all the things that we talked about, there's no bill, there's no charge. Medicare covers those things, covers all those care team, all the DME supplies, covers all the medications that are deemed covered. The ones that aren't covered will be picked up by your other insurance. But these are the things that are so important that families really don't know, is that, oh, wow, this is all covered. Now, there's some things that cannot be covered if you go outside the guidance of the hospice, doing other visits and things that are outside of what the plan of care is for the hospice. But if you are under hospice and you do the things that are guided by the hospice and the team, those things are covered under hospice. And so now, fast forward, Miss Peggy, she is on hospice at home. And now she's getting nursing visits to monitor her condition, an aide to come and help with bathing, and also a social worker to help navigate the emotional side of things as she's declining, and also to help support Karen, because it's a lot for her. Mom is on hospice now, and she's not, she's declining, but like, how do I cope with that? And that's the beauty behind hospice, is that emotional support, not just for the patient, but also for the family. And then also a chaplain. She's a believer. She's of Christian faith, and so she wanted a chaplain to come out and do regular visits and talk to her and read scriptures and pray, and those are things that are a benefit. And Karen later was like, you know what? I wish we would have started this sooner and started hospice sooner, because of the support and so much help that now I get, but also that Peggy has to get that support that she needs at home. And so hospice can be scary, but the goal is that understanding the basics. Now, there's several different deep layers when it comes to hospice, but understanding at least the basics at least helps you understand, okay, these are the things that are important to know when it comes to hospice. Now, there's several different parts of care at home. So there's home health, which is very different than hospice. There's personal care, there's palliative care, and there's hospice care. What we're talking about today specifically is hospice care, and this is covered under Medicare. Medicare covers all of these services that we talked about. Palliative care is not a benefit that is covered, DME, supplies, care teams. That's very different. It's an approach. And so some hospital systems, some community-based companies have palliative care, and where you can continue to do aggressive treatment. So now let's say Ms. Karen is wanting to have an aggressive surgery or do certain things and continue to be on palliative care. Hospice wouldn't be appropriate for her. It wouldn't be at that time, because now the goal is now aggressive treatment to continue to move forward. And palliative care and home health is more of that lane. When you're looking at personal care now, hospice doesn't cover, like we talked about before, someone to be at the bedside to help with ADLs and things like that. You're going to get an aide that's going to come out 3 to 5 times a week to help with bathing, usually 30 to 45 minutes at a time. But if you need extra help, that's where most families will pay out of pocket, or use, if they do have a long-term care insurance plan, to hire someone to come in for 4 to 6 hours, 8 hours, a couple times a week. And that's where personal care comes in. That's the company that allows for you to do that services. And then home health is more focused on physical therapy, nursing, improvement, getting her back to cooking. But she herself, Peggy, doesn't want to go that route. And so that's why, for this specific situation, the doctor recommended hospice care and to look into it. So I know that was a lot of information. I hope this helped. What we're going to do now is we're going to actually have JT. I think he's on the line as well. We're going to have a few questions that probably came in, but questions that we've seen as well over the years, and we'll go from there. Let me see if I can bring JT in. Oh, there it is. Oh, boop. Hold up. There we go. All right.
Thanks, Charles.
How's it going?
Getting smoother and smoother.
Yeah.
Been doing these for 5 weeks now.
Mm-hmm.
Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me, Charles?
Yeah.
Oh, sweet.
Mm-hmm.
You talked a lot about hospice today. I wanted to ask what the difference between home health and hospice is.
Yeah, great question. So these are two different types of benefits. So it kind of goes down to two things: the payer insurance and also the goals of your loved one. So let's use Peggy. So now let's say Peggy is just initially was starting to feel weak, and she's like, I want to keep going to my cooking classes. I want to keep doing those things, but I'm still getting weaker. Now, let's say Peggy talks to her doctor and says, hey, I would like to have home health. So now a nurse would come out, go over her medications, and physical therapy will be ordered. And the goal is to really get her from one place to another, from weakness to strength, right? And going back to the things that she loves. And so that's where home health's goals match what Peggy wants to do. And then insurance would cover that under Medicare Part B. So some people have traditional Medicare, some people have like United Healthcare, Blue Cross Blue Shield. Now the payer has to get authorization in order for home health to start. And then that's where home health starts. And then hospice is more of that terminal diagnosis, comfort, dignity, keeping Peggy safe at home, not going back and forth to the hospital, not pursuing aggressive treatment. And that's that goal. So we always like to say the goals versus, what your loved one wants to do and what your family's goals want to do as well.
Sweet. And everyone's experience with hospice is different, of course, every family, every patient. But in your experience, like what makes a good experience for hospice for the patient and what makes a good experience for the family?
Yeah, I think let's talk about the family first. So let's talk about Karen, right? And let's talk about sons and daughters. Hospice initially can be very foreign, right? And so not all hospices function the same. And so a lot of times it's more of getting the education, talking to someone, having an understanding of what to expect. Because a lot of times what we've seen a lot is that the expectation of hospice is it's going to help. It's going to alleviate all of my frustrations. It's going to make moms like great and it's going to be awesome. But the reality of it is that that's not the case. Hospice is a guest. It's there to help, support, but not to solve all the problems. And so what we've seen is a lot of times those expectations can be super high, right? And you can feel like you got let down, right? But the reality of it is hospice is a benefit. It's there to support, but it's not help to solve everything. And so what we've seen is a lot of times it's just understanding what it is and not kind of understanding that it is there to kind of meet all the needs of your loved one. Now, when it comes to the patient, it is there for support and comfort. So now in Peggy's case, she does not want to go back and forth to the hospital. She wants to be at home. She wants quality of life. She enjoys being at home. And so now the nurse coming in to help support her with that. If she's having weakness or more pain, having a nurse to kind of coordinate and triage that pretty quickly. Help with bathing. She can't bathe anymore. So having that support. So it's really tailored towards the family to support, but help them understand what it is. But for the family, it's for the patients, for comfort and keeping them having good quality of life. So
Sweet. And I got one from LinkedIn this week from Mr. Bryant. He asked for home health. AADLs are excluded from home health, like 24/7 care. Is 24/7 ADL support there for hospice, or how does that work?
Yeah, so it's not. So it's the benefit of Medicare covers for specifically that skilled type of care that we talked about. So that care team, when you have that aid is really there to help with specific guidance on what the nurse says it's good for your loved one. So let's say the nurse goes and does a care plan, an aid care plan, and says, okay, based on what the need is, we're going to have you have a bath three times a week or 5 times a week, depending on what the need is. And that bath is just a bath, right? It's hygiene. It's maybe helping with oral care. And that's usually you're looking at 30 to 45 to an hour, depending on the need. But when you're looking at the round-the-clock ADLs, like waking up in the morning, getting someone there to help them get up in the morning, helping them eat lunch, helping them put on their clothes, helping Miss Peggy go to bed, right, at night, that's not what hospice covers. It covers that skilled care, and that's where we see families go to the personal care route or use their family to help support if finances are tough. So.
Yeah, I was going to hop on and kind of say if you are watching this and you're not ready for hospice, your loved one's not based on that, and you have long-term care insurance, or your loved one's a veteran, or you want extra assistance with bathing, housekeeping, light cooking, and things like that, you can also use this same link, call our office about personal care services, because they are important and they might be a good kind of transitional phase for the family as well.
Yep. That's great. Yeah.
Sweet.
Awesome.
That's all we got.
Sweet. Great. Awesome, man. Well, hey, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Hope it was helpful and educational. Please make sure to share this with someone that you may know that is probably considering that, or maybe you yourself or your loved one is considering it. Our information is right there on the screen, 972-778-8038. You can actually text that number as well, or you can click, or you can not, you actually can't click that, but you can do hospice.charlin .org and go there and set up a link and we can chat. We're based in the DFW area, so if you're watching this, we're in Dallas, Texas, and so we can serve anyone here in this area. But I hope this is helpful for you, and I guess we'll see everyone next week.